Welcome back to Anything is Possible. Solstice today, and even though we're a lot closer to the equator than I used to be, it is kind of a drab day. I mean, it's a little overcast and the sun angle is pretty low, so it isn't feeling really cheerful here today. But I know that this is the peak of when things are going to be at their worst, and I have to be grateful that I'm not further north where there is just a lot of really, really cold weather happening right now. It is getting colder here, and apparently January and February are when it gets its coldest, so I am bracing for that. It is certainly very much more pleasant here than it was in Southern Oregon where I came from. This is going to be a fairly short video. I've been very preoccupied this week dealing with various different things. I thought I would do a quick update on my experience here with the medical system. As you recall, I fell back at the end of October, really wrecked up my shoulder and hit my head on the tile floor in the living room. I had my foot got caught on a blanket on the couch, and it was just a silly thing, but you know, of all the things that could happen here, you know, with all the uneven sidewalks and cobblestones and people tripping and falling all the time here, this could have happened anywhere on the earth. I just was not paying attention. But I had gone the next day. They didn't seem concerned about my head at all. But they did do an x-ray of my shoulder, and they said nothing was broken. Well, time went on. I went to a combination of a chiropractor, physical therapist, and a guy that also does myofascial release. And he tried to get my shoulder back working again because I was concerned with the level of pain I was still having, and the range of motion was getting a lot better, but it wasn't coming back completely. So I went to him a couple of times, and by the third time I went back, things were really not improving, and he says, I want you to get an MRI. So he actually gave me the name of a doctor who was at the San Antonio hospital here at Lake Chapala, and I made an appointment, which happened like immediately. I mean, it was like the next day I got an appointment, so it was really fast. And I went in, talked to him, and he kind of had me lift my arm, and he says, well, it's a torn rotator cuff, and you're going to need surgery, but we'll get an MRI done. So I went through the MRI. They got me right into that also. They just walked me over. So in an hour and a half, I was in and out of that appointment and had an MRI done, and the next day they got me the results, and yes, indeed, I have a ruptured tendon, but it didn't sound like it was, you know, actually completely torn through. So my research on that is showing that those things can usually mend on their own. It can be time consuming, and it continues to be painful, but I'm planning on just working on getting that to mend itself, because shoulder surgery is extremely painful and it takes a long time to recover from. And I believe my body will be able to heal from this. I may never have the same complete range of motion that I had before, but I'm not concerned. So I am actually very happy with the medical system, other than the fact that the guy that I talked to was so certain, and he already referred me to a surgeon before he even saw the results of the MRI. He was like, oh, you're going to have shoulder surgery. And of course, it depends on what the MRI shows. And, well, I do not believe that the report that I got warrants surgery. I'd rather go to a physical therapist and chiropractor, and a more conservative approach, and see if I can't get my shoulder back to working the way I want. But the second part of this now, I did actually talk to my insurance man who is Edgardo Cedeno, and he is here at Lake Chapala. He has an office at the Lake Chapala Society. He said he wanted to open a file on me and start accumulating the charges that I've been paying for myself, because it is adding up. Even though the MRI I paid out of pocket was $300, the consultation was another $50 in US dollars. And then, of course, I paid for the x-ray and the initial consultation. So, it's adding up, and that can all be accumulated and totaled and added to the deductible if I end up having to have surgery. So it's a good thing that he's starting to get a file together. But the hitch in all of this is that you can't just give him receipts to show that you've paid. He has to have what's called a factura, and have never seen a factura, and I'm not sure I'm going to see one at this point. But it's apparently a much more legal document than just a receipt showing that you paid. So I called a hospital to get the factura from the October x-ray, and oh no, you can't get a factura. You can only get a factura for the month that the visit happened. So October is already out. I'm never going to get a factura for that. And then the MRI, it turns out I actually have to go to the actual doctor that gave me the MRI at the hospital. Even though it was at the hospital, he handles all of this himself. So I contacted them, using Google Translate and plugging stuff in. And it turns out that they won't give me the factura unless I have an RFC. Now, I was aware of RFCs, but I had never really bothered. What it is a little more sophisticated than a Social Security number, but it is Mexico's way of tracking every single person that's in the country. Technically speaking, everyone is supposed to have one, and it's a separate application. You also get what's called a Qroo when you get a temporary resident visa, but they don't want the Qroo, and they don't want anything to do with the temporary resident visa. They want this RFC. So I'm going to link below. There's a really good video by Qroo Paul on RFCs and how to obtain one. Apparently it used to be possible to get one here at Lake Chapala, and I have written an email to my immigration facilitator and see if she can help me get one without having to go to Guadalajara. But I got on the website and started to schedule an appointment, and it turns out that the only appointments actually were in Zapopan or in Guadalajara. There was nothing here, and I just really, right now, I don't feel like driving all the way to Guadalajara, but it is much more than just issuing you a number. They actually fingerprint you again. I had to get fingerprinted and a photograph taken when I went and got my temporary resident visa, but I guess this is something different. They have some sort of a eye recognition system or something. I haven't been through this yet, and fingerprinting, so that it goes with this number that they assign. And I'm sure it really does help them. If everybody has to have one, it helps them track down criminal activity. And if I were to fall prey to some sort of foul play, it helps them identify victims. So, but still, why does it have to be so mandatory for me to get this factura, which will help me get my insurance money? It's all a tangled web. So back and forth I've gone with my insurance man and with the doctor's office that did the MRI, and they absolutely will not issue a factura without an RFC. So I'm waiting to hear from my immigration lady if she can do anything for me before I schedule an appointment and make a trip to Guadalajara. But right now it's looking like I'm going to have to do that. And I am actually planning on going on a trip soon, so I won't even be in town. So it'll probably be mid-January before I even would get there to be able to do this. So hopefully they will hang on and be able to issue me a factura in January for something that happened in December. But my insurance man actually did say go ahead and give him copies of all of the receipts for everything that I paid for, and possibly the insurance company will accept that. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to tell you, the MRI machine, since a magnetic resonance imaging machine has this very powerful magnet in it, right? And I wear hearing aids. And at the last minute, while they're rolling me in, I said, oh, they saw that I had earrings, metal earrings, and so I took them off. And I said, oh, I probably should take my hearing aids out too. And the doctor that was there, he was like, oh yeah, that's important. Well, they were rolling me into this cylinder that they put you in to do the MRI, and I'm not exactly sure where they put the hearing aids, but they got wiped out. The magnet wiped out my hearing aids. So apparently when I went to my hearing aid lady, that was another thing I had to take care of this week, because I can't hear much of anything without my hearing aids. She gave me some loaners, so I'm limping along here. It's going to take 6 to 8 weeks probably to get my hearing aids back, because they have to be sent to California to the manufacturer, and whether they replace the innards or reprogram or whatever they have to do, they're under warranty, so it's not going to cost anything, but I'm going to be 8 weeks without my actual programmed hearing aids that work for me. And I have these loaners. So here I am trying to communicate on the phone with people with heavy accents, and also it's the custom here to speak very quietly. My insurance man is very soft-spoken with a fairly heavy accent, and as sweet as can be, but finally he ended up having to type on his computer what he was trying to say, because I was having such a hard time. And dealing with the hospital on the phone was also very difficult, because they have accents, and she was trying to tell me the email to send to the doctor to be able to get a copy of the factura, and I was just positive that I wasn't getting it right. So I said, do you have my email? Can you just email what that email address is, and I'll email them. And she goes, yeah, I can do that. And I never got an email from her. I think she was frustrated with me too. I mean, I understand it's very difficult for people to deal with people that have hearing impairments, and they have to constantly keep asking to have things repeated. But on my end, it's a way of life. I mean, it is even more frustrating because it's 24/7. It's not just one phone conversation, it's every conversation. I am looking forward to hopefully the end of January, when I'll be able to get back to my routine of working on my shoulder and getting my hearing aids back, and hopefully learning a little bit more, getting an RFC, and getting some more things lined up so that I'm able to operate as I should here in Mexico with their system, which is definitely different. But I do encourage you not to sleep on this RFC deal. I mean, it is tied to so many things. As Qroo Paul in his video talks about, I mean, it's tied to getting auto loans, bank accounts, probably buying a house. And I wasn't planning on doing any of those things. I have my car here. I'm renting I didn't believe, I'm not making any income in Mexico, so I felt like, well, getting a tax ID number is not really very important, but it is from the government standpoint, and it is how they track almost everything. And it's very much like a Social Security number in the United States, where that is your unique identifier for every citizen in the country. And I understand that, and I appreciate it, and I will behave myself, and I'll get one, but it won't happen overnight. I want to wish you a happy holiday season, whatever it is that you are doing, and whatever it is you celebrate. I celebrate the solstice. That to me is a very big holiday, and it is turning the corner and welcoming light back into our lives again. And I know a lot of you living further north are looking forward to that, even though it is the beginning of winter. At least we can say the days will start getting longer. So I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching. Please do like, subscribe, comment if you want, ask any questions that you have. I can't promise that I'll be able to answer them. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday, and I will see you next time. Bye.